Hello class, today is Monday, July 22nd, and this is week 3 check-in video for Social Work 501 for Summer 2 of 2024. This is Dr. Benavides, and in this video, I'm going to talk a little bit about the week 2 discussion post as well as the week 2 concept quiz. And talk about what's coming up in week 3. So I want to talk a little bit about the Code of Ethics because in your week 2 quiz, part of one of the questions was to talk about ethics, values, beliefs, and so I just want to touch on that as well briefly in this video. First of all, it seems like everybody seems to be, in your older adult interview check-in, it seems that everybody's just sort of rolling along. This is great. There was a couple of questions that I responded to both individually and to the group as a whole. If you go back and read the discussions, but in case you don't, I'm going to address it here. But the question was, how many life stages do you need to focus on for the presentation for the older adult oral video presentation? And the answer to that is just one. You're going to focus on one life stage. It could be that individual's childhood, their young adulthood, their early adulthood, middle adulthood, or their current stage of life, which should be older adulthood. So that is completely up to you. Another question that somebody had emailed me separately was, do we need to decide on the life stage before the interview, or we can decide after? That's completely up to you. Typically, if you know what life stage you want to focus on, then you have some more pre-thought out, open-ended questions to ask about that particular life stage. But it could be that you might go in with the idea that you're going to focus on, let's say, middle adulthood, but they start talking about childhood, and so there's things that come up with that you might think be more interesting to focus on that, and that's fine as well. I want to reiterate again that and I mentioned this in my introduction to the course and assignments, that the actual presentation that you're going to do is not yourself it's not a video of you interviewing your interviewee. No. That is not what this presentation is. The presentation, it will be a PowerPoint, and you will discuss, as I mentioned in that video earlier in the course, that there is a PowerPoint template that you are to use, and you are able to use direct quotes in that presentation, but you're not to provide any visual or audio clips of your presentation, as that could really negate confidentiality and privacy, which is why you're having your older adult interviewee sign the written consent. So really important just to keep that in mind. It looks like everybody is on the right track with that. Good job. If you have any questions, just feel free to reach out. Genogram activity, you all did a good job on that. It is complex. Many of you mentioned that it is a complex process, and like anything else, it takes time, and with practice it becomes easier. In the major symbols that represent gender, sex, marital status, religion, spirituality, all those things, become a little easier. Now, I did not include all of the different types of relationship patterns in the resources that I gave you for week 2 learning resources. There were some resources there. Excuse me, actually, it was in the week 2 genogram activity discussion. There were some resources there on genograms, and I didn't put up all the different ones that there are, but there are a lot that represent different types of relationships. So, there's ones that represent conflict, ones that represent closeness, ones that represent kind of close but not super close, ones that represent dating and living together, or dating but not living together, or married but not living together. And the list is endless. And you don't necessarily have to memorize all of those. There are more on genopro.com that you can look there. So just something to keep in mind. And as I find new things, I will, I try and make this course better. So if there's, for every time I teach it, so if there's anything that you think I should include, let me know. Send me an email. If you see any resources that helped you and you think would be good to include, please send those my way as well. So really good job with that. Now, let's see. So for this week, we have 2 discussions. The week 3 discussion, it is a check-in. It's just a check-in with your background with psychological theories. And then there's a week 3 discussion on the Sanchez family. So as I'm doing this, I just realized that this is the incorrect page number. So I'll go back to that in a second. So for this discussion on week 3, discussion on the Sanchez case family, you are going to click on this link and it's going to take you to the interactive Sanchez family case website that corresponds with the Sanchez family that is part of the Rogers textbook that we are using. All right. Once you have reviewed the client history, client concerns, and goals for client, for one particular family member of the Sanchez family that you plan on focusing on, excuse me, I said this wrong, but pick an individual member of the Sanchez family to focus on. This is not the same family from Mi Familia. This is a family that is part of the Rogers textbook. Okay, an example from the Rogers textbook. Pick a family member, read all their information, including their ecomap and genogram. And once you've done that, you are to complete the exercises on page 108, 109 in the Rogers 5th edition, which was the edition that was incorrectly listed in your syllabus. Some of you bought that one. If you did, that's fine. Those exercises are on page 108 and 109. However, if you did purchase the 6th edition, those exercises would be on page 96. So just do the ones that apply to the Sanchez family, okay? In order to follow up with at least one classmate and describe what you have learned from your peers and from your peer that you responded to, and what you can add to their learning regarding systems theory and how it applies to the Sanchez family. All right, so again, if you have the new 6th edition textbook, the page for that has those exercises is on page 96. And the exercises are A through H, I believe. No, A through F. Okay. Okay, this is our second concept quiz for the course. As I mentioned in the beginning of the semester, there are 3 concept quizzes. And first of all, let me just say I have graded your week 2 concept quizzes. So I've made comments in your papers if you lost any points in the rubric, that you will see the rubric and it'll show you where you might have lost points and my comments about that. If you did not lose any points, I would still go in and look at your paper, because it could be that I provided just comments for all the papers of just things to think about. I encourage you to challenge yourself to think a little bit further about this or to think about that. So I make comments. So please go back and look at that. Overall, everybody did a really good job on their concept quiz for week 2. Week 3 concept quiz, very similar to week 2 concept quiz. There are 2 questions. One is, what is operant conditioning, which is what you'll be reading about this week, and describe 2 ways it is used in social work practice today. And the second one is to describe Piaget's cognitive adaptation process. Make sure you know what cognitive adaptation process is, because it is specific. And so a lot of times people just talk about Piaget and they talk about, the stages of cognitive development, and that's not what Piaget's cognitive adaptation process is talking about. Your concept quiz is due again on Sunday of week 3. Should be between 750 and 1,000 words per question, and you must use APA 7th edition formatting. So I wanted to talk really quickly about social work values and ethics, and you all discussed in the week 2 concept quiz. There was a question. Part of the second question was to talk about ethics, values, and beliefs, and you all talked about the importance of self-reflection and self-awareness as social workers. All very true, and you all did a good job with that. But I just want to take a thing just a step further. There was some discussions in some of the answers that sort of was talking about values, conflict, and ethical dilemmas. And I just want to make sure that we're clear that these are 2 separate things. It's important as social workers that it is our professional values and not our personal values that guide practice. So when we're talking about us having personal values that conflict with the clients or the families, client systems that we are working with, clients' values are what we focus on, not our own personal values. Those don't have a place. We can't say we're not going to work with somebody because their family looks different than ours, or they have different beliefs about what marriage is, or those sort of things. Those are personal values, not professional values, and therefore should not be guiding our practice. Ethical dilemmas are when there is conflict between ethical principles. So as you know, I should say, if you look at the Code of Ethics, it has several ethical obligations. We have obligations to our clients, to our community, to the larger society, to our profession, to the place where we work, to our colleagues. And within that, there are more specific standards under each of those principles. When things might be in conflict with each other, some of those ethical standards or principles might be in conflict with each other. Think about client's right to confidentiality, and what if that person is engaging in behavior that can harm somebody else? That is an obligation to the larger society. But we also have an obligation to the client and their right to confidentiality. There you have an ethical dilemma. Not all ethical dilemmas are that clear-cut, right? So it's important to understand that an ethical dilemma is not our own ethical beliefs versus our client's ethical beliefs. No, it is when there are when ethical values or ethical principles of our code of ethics are in conflict with each other. There's a lot of great ethical decision-making models that we can use. So I encourage the use of those, and I can post those if people are interested, so that you have access to those. So there's ethical decision-making models, always talking to your supervisor, getting supervision when we're not sure where to go with something. Or what's the next step to take. The thing about the Code of Ethics, which I also mentioned to somebody else in one of my comments, is that it doesn't provide answers to every single question that you may have, right? It's very black and white if you look at it. And so that's why supervision is important. That's why talking to colleagues is important. That's why going to workshops on ethical decision-making is important. That's why utilizing different ethical decision-making models are important, and I'll post some of those. Anyway, that's all I wanted to say. All right, take care. Let me know if y'all have any questions. Bye.